A few days later I started my morning exercise. The last few days haven't been fun. I had killed 3 people. Yikes. I had been hiding in my room over the last few days, only really seeing Hiromi as she had come to pick up her bike's shard. She had been irritable. The blow to her head thankfully hadn't done anything permanent, but it still hurt according to her. She had hung out with me on the couch for a few hours before bailing to pick up her bike. Ichi and Malcolm had both sent me a text to ask how I was. Nothing from Omaida, but that was fine. He didn't strike me as the chatty type. But yeah, I had killed 3 people. And not only was I given a certain amount of respect by the Tiger Claws as the story spread, I also gained a benefit in my system from it. People were XP bags. That was probably a bad way to phrase it. Turns out that I had an actual level system for myself as well. I hadn't noticed because I had never gained a single XP towards leveling until then. Now I had. With 3 murders. 500 XP gained. 500 XP gained. 750 XP gained. I had leveled out of it. Level up achieved. 1 stat point gained. 1 skill point gained. I had points I could just put into one of my stats, and skills apparently. So for the small price of cold-blooded, or cold blood murder, I had things I could upgrade. That, and I had also gained another skill under the cool stat, which might explain a little why I had been so floaty when it was all over. Cold blood 1. I had gained it for murdering 3 people. This could be a problem. I might have fallen into a grinding addiction there. And that could really lead to some fucked up shit if I wasn't careful. I really liked grinding after all. Numbers make Motoko brain go boar. I grunted as I continued my push-up routine. I still hadn't used the points. It felt wrong. Like a drug. Tempting and addicting, but dangerous. I sighed. I had been way too far into my own head since that day. What a mess. At least I got loot out of it. 2 SMGs and a revolver. Well, I refused to keep that stupid crap, so I sold that off for a nice chunk of eddies. I had actual money now. Especially after Richie had given me my cut. That on top of the shards I had klept from Gonzales and his boys, I had a nice little nest egg. It wasn't by a car level, but I had enough that I could go clothes shopping or something. I had not gone clothes shopping. I hadn't left the apartment since then, in fact. Hadn't even gone out on a jog. The outside was the outside, and dangerous and full of murder. The inside was quiet, and safe, and not full of murder. See simple Motoko. June called out a few hours later as he slipped out of the room, a bit of bedhead still causing his swoopy hairstyle to stand on end. Get dressed. We are going to get some noodles for lunch. He told me and then walked past me to go to the bathroom as if he hadn't just told me to go outside. I can't go outside. Murderers out there. Jun-ni. How about you go get some noodles to go? Won't it be nice to eat inside? Yeah, like last time. Much better idea. I called out, following after him a bit and pacing in the kitchen. A moment later the sink was running as June was cleaning himself up. After that he stepped out of the bathroom looking more put together. No. You refuse to leave the apartment on your own. He says gruffly, but he was obviously fighting back against his instinct to simply snap at me. Instead he walks up and puts his hands on my arms. June? You are a strong person, Motoko. Don't let your fear control you. I don't know if forcing you is the right thing, but it's the only thing I can think of. So let's go. He tells me bluntly, and as he turns towards the door to collect his shoes. I sort of panicked. How do I react to that? But eventually Jun-ni sort of came over and guided me to my shoes where I put them on, and then despite dragging my feet Jun-ni pushed me over the apartment's doorway. I was on the outside. With all the murder. I swallowed a little, but Jun-ni's arm was over my shoulder as he guided me to the elevator, and then we were on the bottom floor. And I was walked out onto the street. It was loud and alive and people were all over, and there was a street vendor right there that wasn't selling those fucking burritos Jun-ni loved so much. I swear a few days of nothing but June brought burritos. Okay, let's get some noodles. I grumbled right along, my tummy rumbling, and June I could see was smiling as we walked to Cherry Blossom Market and settled into the noodle shop. And damn if that ramen wasn't some pretty great shit. It wasn't the best I ever had, but it was pretty damn good. I guess the outside had murder. And ramen. This would need some further examination, I decided as I slurped my noodles. Hey, I heard you finally went outside again. Hiromi called as she walked into the apartment without knocking, startling the fuck out of me as I squeaked and fell from my crunches on the floor. Hiromi. Ever heard of knocking? I grumble. Nope. You feeling better? She asked as she instantly joined me on the floor sitting cross-legged. I guess? I said, laying back on the floor. I guess. I wasn't really expecting to flatline 3 gonks. Neither was I. Okay, you are feeling good enough to talk about, so I'm gonna fucking gush a bit. Holy shit, Motoko. You were awesome before and everything, but Ichi told me exactly what happened and it was so preem, she cried out, throwing her arms up in the air. That was total edge runner shit. It was. Luck. Really. I don't even know how close they came to shooting me back, but I think it was pretty close. I was just freaking out so bad I didn't really notice at the time. I told her. They had both opened fire. I was just lucky that plugging them a few times had thrown off their aim. PSSHT, that's not the point. That was so cool. No, listen, I can see you starting to frown, so let me just say. Thanks. You got them back for trying to flatline me. So even if you are different and everything. Thanks, Choom. She says and actually lays down beside me a bit to throw an arm over me in a hug. You're welcome. Them hitting you really freaked me out. Yeah, I know. You flatlined 3 guys, Hiromi laughed. Ah man, I'm so mad I missed it. Ichi's storytelling is the worst. She laughs and I chuckle along with her as she starts complaining. I felt a bit of the anxiety dissipate. I guess. I would probably do it again. To get revenge for hitting Hiromi. For trying to kill Ichi. I guess I would murder again. I would have to think about that later. Right now Hiromi wanted to complain about how long it took to get her bike back after everything. She had to take the train, and she wasn't happy. Oh. Also my parents. They want to thank you for what you did. They weren't happy that I got hurt, but you know I had to explain everything. So they want to see you again. Okay? Hiromi winced, looking a little guilty. Right, you don't remember. Listen, my parents are. They are corpus. Like high up in Arasaka. You don't remember, but they didn't really approve of you before all this. Since you sorta dragged me into the tiger claws. Last time you met them it didn't go well, and they are total gonks. But they made me promise to invite you over. I looked over at Hiromi in surprise. She didn't look like a rich kid. Well, other than the motorcycle. And the constantly changing expensive outfits. Even if they were gangster looking. Oh, I guess she was probably a rich kid, huh? Okay. I'll come if you want. Well, I guess I do. My parents know you are different and stuff now, so I kinda want to see how they handle the new you. I'll come then. Great. Come on. Let's get you cleaned up and dressed. She jumped to her feet and pulled me up as I let her drag me to my room to sort out my clothes to pick what to wear. I vetoed everything she chose and picked a more simple style with as little tiger claw insignia as possible. Although I still put my fucking gun on my back. Even if it made my hand shake to touch it. We drove over the bridge to the other half of Japantown and Hiromi pulled into a secure underground garage leading me up to an elevator that she had to give an access code to open. The area is a little messy, but this building is used by a lot of corpo families. They keep it secure or whatever. She told me with a shrug as the elevator hummed along. It's nice. I told her, because it was. The elevator was clean and didn't smell like mine did. It's horrible. She muttered, but I bumped her shoulder this time and that perked her up a little. The door opened to a nice hallway with 2 apartments on each side of the floor. Hiromi grumbled as she walked up and the door slid open, leading into a high-end apartment. It wasn't quite at the point of having multiple floors, but it was a pretty big apartment for a small family. This is home. She told me and I nodded, noticing the coat rack by the door. I pulled off my tiger claw coat and hung it up only to turn and see Hiromi giving me a look. What? You are such a gonk. She told me with a grin. I just shrugged and took off my shoes like she did. It was a Japanese-style entranceway. I followed her deeper into the apartment, noticing that everything was spotlessly clean except I noticed areas Hiromi had obviously spent time in. A mess of what looked like Hiromi's breakfast layout still on the living room table where she had eaten, Probably watching TV since there was a floor-to-ceiling TV set there. Oh? You actually brought your friend, Hiromi. A woman's voice spoke from behind me and I turned to see a well-dressed corpo woman step out of what had to be an office with how it was set up. Honestly, considering Hiromi's normal looks, they didn't really look much alike. Course I did. Motoko is my chum. I could see Hiromi's mother's face twitch at the word. I guess she wasn't a fan of slang. Good to know. It's nice to meet you. Or meet you, I guess. I offered a small bow as I said that. What I had said or how maybe startled the woman because she refocused on me with an odd look. You said your friend had amnesia, but I don't think I really believed it. It's gonk, right? She is totally different, but still Motoko, Hiromi chuckled, throwing an arm over my shoulder. Is that so? The woman asked, looking me over top to bottom. While I still don't approve of Hiromi's choice in friends, nor where it took her, especially now since she got hurt, I can at least approve of her friends defending her. I heard you killed the men that harmed her? Yeah, something like that. I muttered, but the woman simply nodded. Good. Someone that will kill to protect my daughter is someone I can approve of, at least mildly. She uttered with an almost thoughtless casualness. Right, I forgot. Corpo people are fucking insane assholes. Why did I agree to come here? Hiromi, take your friend to your room, dinner will be here soon. Your father isn't going to make it, she said simply before turning around and re-entering her office without a further look. Wow. Tell me about it. Hiromi grumbled. Come on, I guess I do want to show you my room, just not because my mom said I had to. She grumbled, her obvious rebellion fighting against already wanting to do just that. So I followed her into her room and looked around, a smile twitching at my lips. It's very you. Oh, shut up. She grumbled at me as I took in every inch of her room covered in Japanese decorations and tiger claw paraphernalia. I think you have more tiger claw stuff than I do, I mentioned, which ended with Hiromi throwing a pillow at me to shut me up. I caught it and noticed it was embroidered with a tiger, which I showed her and quirked an eyebrow. Her face was getting pretty red, so I stopped teasing. It's nice, I told her with a smile as I started poking around a bit. It's expensive. Not nice. I hate it, but I have to spend my parents' money on something, she admitted as she fell back onto her bed. I'm kinda surprised. Old Motoko used to give me so much shit for being a rich girl. But you don't seem to care. I don't. It's not your fault for being rich, any more than it's mine for being poor. At least I don't think it's my fault. I hope not anyway. PFFT. Now you did a good job doing street kid stuff to bring in extra eddies. Between you and June working with the claws, you both were pretty comfortable, she tells me, and I shrug. I doubt she knew the whole story, but I hoped it was accurate. I hoped my whole issue hadn't put a huge strain on June. Damn it. Come on, I want to trash you on some games. Okay. I smiled as she revealed she had some future tech game system. Dinner was very awkward. Where do you go to school now, Motoko? Hiromi's mother asked as we all sat around a kitchen table and ate some delivery meal that was pretty fancy. I haven't gone to school since I got out of the hospital, so I'm not sure. Honestly, I just finished my physical therapy to get myself moving again a week or so ago, so I'm still recovering. Humph. Well, at least you have an excuse for not going to school. Unlike my Hiromi. Arasaka Academy is for losers, Hiromi muttered, and although I could tell her mother heard her, she didn't bring it up. Awkward. Hiromi's mother was so straight-laced and yet she had this weird sense of disconnect. Like murder, arson and jaywalking were so normal and expected, it wasn't seen as a crime but just how the world works. Well, you saved my daughter from her own youthful exuberances, the woman said as the dinner was finishing up. Despite dragging her into this life before, I can admit to some ease of my worry that she apparently made a connection to someone that will assist her when she needs it. She will need someone like you when she joins Arasaka. And a moment later, 5 grand in eddies was transmitted to my account. I blinked. Hiromi looked confused, and her mother simply finished popping in the last of her weird stir-fry dish. Before nodding, Hiromi, ensure your friend is sent on her way. Have a good night, she offered as she rose and left the room. Your mom just gave me 5 grand, I told Hiromi once the woman was gone. Uck. That bitch. Hiromi growled before shaking it off. Whatever, enjoy it. We can go shopping or something. She always does this, tries to buy off my friends. That's kinda fucked up, I say with a shrug. Whatever, I guess. Parents can be massive gonks, I tell her, earning a smile before she stands up. Come on, we can finally get out of here. Sure. We ended up driving around the city for a while, Hiromi showing me a few spots that we had hung out or done stuff before the scavs. It was nice. I sat on the couch, staring at my guns. June had said we were going to the gun range again today. Apparently he had gotten a message from grizzled gun range guy. I didn't know. I stared at my pistol. No problem. I pick up the pistol. My hand starts shaking. Fuck. I put it down with a sigh. I was still having some issues from cold-blooded murder. Who would have thunk? I glared at the gun. It wasn't its fault. It was mine. I had chosen to act. To do. To protect and for revenge. I had acted, and now I had to live with the consequences. I reached out again, grabbed the gun and held it, ignoring how my hand shook. How I felt. Fear. This world isn't safe, I reminded myself. Human life is seen as worth less than nothing to a lot of people. To the big corporations. I took a deep breath. I had to get over this. I needed to get over this. I had to be able to defend myself. No leeway. I had to. So I took a breath and held the pistol. Let the feel of it in my hand flow through me. I must not fear. Fear is the mind killer. I muttered the start to an old quote. A good one though. I quoted it as much as I could remember. Letting the fear flow through me, filling myself with acceptance. Only I will remain. What? June asked, startling me as I yelped and opened my eyes. Nothing, just talking to myself. I'm trying to get over the shakes. June frowned, noticing my hand still a little shaky as I held the gun. I could see a trail of emotions run over his face, but it was obvious he didn't know what to say. It's not like he could just tell me not to pick up a gun again. This wasn't that sort of city, and we weren't rich enough for that. Come on. Let's go. He eventually landed on, and I nodded, holstering the pistol and following him out of the apartment. One step at a time. To my surprise, June had actually brought along the SMGs I had collected. Held them in a backpack, and so when we entered the range he actually guided me into the back room with grizzled gun range guy and popped them onto the table. Picked these up on a job. Any issues with them? He asked in the small soundproof workroom I had been guided into. The same man was sitting behind a little workbench desk with a disassembled assault rifle on the table in front of him. Saratoga? Not bad guns. No smart system, or anything. I'll clean them up and take a look. Put them over there, he ordered, and June did just that. And then we headed out to the range. We had a lane again, and then, well, I had to shoot. I didn't put it off. I just grabbed my gun and started. I quick-drawed like normal and aimed. And the trigger just wouldn't pull. I sighed. This was so stupid. I took a deep breath, let it out and aimed, and this time the trigger went off. But I flinched. Badly. Stupidly. My bullet didn't even hit the target. Hands were shaking too much. June started firing and I jerked for a moment before relaxing. I was being so stupid. Cool. Motoko. Be cool. I took a deep breath and released it. Grabbing the gun, and despite the shakes, I fired a few rounds. A few hit the target, but it was more luck than anything. Damn. I ran a magazine through the gun, reloaded, and shot another, but I wasn't even getting XP for this. My handgun skill was already maxed until I leveled reflex again. And I certainly wasn't doing a good enough job here to earn any XP that way. I sighed as I pulled out my second spent mag and started filling it back up. I would just have to push through it. Third magazine was better. Not really, but I technically hit more, so there you go. Girl. I didn't quite jump, but I certainly jerked, glad the magazine was empty. Grizzled guy was there, with one of the SMGs. No, the Saratoga SMG, held in a hand. Come with me, he demanded, turning, expecting me to follow. I looked at June, who shrugged but also holstered his pistol to follow after. Back inside the workshop room, the man had put the gun back down. The Saratogas are fine. Make sure you clean them after use, he reminded us before turning to look at me. You killed. That was blunt. I nodded slowly. He nods. You're struggling with it, I guess. I offered, not sure how to respond. Everyone struggles at first. Would you do it again? Same circumstances? He asked and I had to nod at that. I would. I would absolutely shoot both of those fuckers, again. And Gonzalez too, even if he had just been trying to fight for his life. All right, he said simply, before pulling out a shard from a box on his desk. Take this. I find it tends to help. He offers me the shard and I slot it in the solo's manual. Blackhand knows what he is talking about. Check out Chapter 4. The old man offers simply before handing June the first Saratoga. Take it out there and put some rounds through it. He orders us both and shoos us out of the workshop. We both turn to each other and shrug a little. I head out to the alley, and decide fuck it why not. As I take the Saratoga from June and start grinding assault. Ignoring how my hands shake, I glanced through the book. Chapter 4. It was literally about deciding on why you kill. Not just killing for money or respect, but the actual reason you will be willing to take a human life. Despite myself I was pretty engaged. Assault skill level up. 1 perk point gained. I blinked away the manual. I was on Chapter 5 now, reading through about setting up gigs, what you should expect, and what you should run away from. I took a deep breath and took a moment to look through the assault perks. Just like handguns, most of them were about using a rifle, or SMG better. Fast reload. Bullet counting. Which I considered because that would be useful for handguns as well, to always know how many bullets you had in a mag. But that was also something that some cyberware could take off. But in the end there was only one choice that I kept coming back to. Gun nut. It didn't sound like much, but reading the description. Pick up any gun and know its quirks and difficulties. Sounded pretty good. Weapons in Night City could be very common, to monsters of modded parts and pieces. Knowing instantly when I pick up a gun how to safe, or unsafe, and fire it could save my life. So I picked it. Shivering a bit as the knowledge just was there. I grabbed the Saratoga and knew that it was a solid weapon, although it did have an overheating problem. If someone fired more than 100 rounds through it, the upper receiver could warp, and cause a small jam, but that it could be cleared with a quick re-racking. I blinked. Neat. June and I practiced for a while longer before heading home. My hands were still shaking a bit by the end. But not as much. Grizzled gun range guy had been right. Morgan's manual had helped. It made me consider what would push me to kill. No more like it had made me start making some rules. And with rules came control. I wasn't just some crazy cyberpsycho killing anyone around them. I was a solo. A merc. I killed when I had to, and yeah, it came with some advantages. It did for everyone too. A street kid murdering some gonk and stealing his eddies probably felt pretty good too. I just also had to worry about the XP addiction. So I had rules. I didn't go out and just murder people for funsies. No. If I killed someone it would be for a reason. Because I took a job to do it. Because they were threatening me or mine. Or because they were evil vile fucking scavs. Scavs were always on the list. So that night after June had left for his tiger claw stuff, I stared at the pistol on the table. A pistol I had killed 2 men with, a pistol that I had used to save the life of a friend. I picked it up, popped the mag, cleared the chamber, spun it on my finger because fuck you I could, and then aimed it out the window. Bang. My hand slowly stopped shaking. I could do this. I could live in this city. I started running again the next day, and almost instantly got a level up. Athletics skill level up. 1 perk point gained. I slowed for a moment but decided to keep jogging as I pulled up the stats screen to check through the perks. Most of them were what I expected. Runner's high. To let me zone out and keep running to push myself pretty hard for long distance running. Parkour. Which was obvious. High jump. Interesting. Increase the height of my hops. Unlike my other skills, athletics didn't have any direct combat stuff I noticed. It was all calm things that would just be useful or to enhance my ability to move. I picked parkour. Always pick parkour. In a city like Night City? Easy pick. The moment I did I started noticing things. Paths through the city opened up to me as if I had run them all. If I jumped onto that cart, I could hit that overhang and climb onto those window bars. Which would put me on the roof of that building. That sort of thing. It was fun to imagine even if I didn't do any of it for now. Just finished up my jog, yet since I wasn't that tired, I decided to do a second lap which by the time I was done had worn me out quite a bit. I would do a quick shower since I had already eaten some lunch at the vendors around the block. But then? More crunches. Yay. I think I was starting to become one of those weirdos who go to the gym. Wait, I actually did need to go to a gym and I had money. Oh right, I had a map in my head. After cleanup I decided I was going to find a gym nearby. So I did a search using my cyberware map system. A few options came up, although I noticed most of them were tiny places with obvious tiger claw symbols on their front. I didn't want that. I wanted a big impersonal gym so people wouldn't notice me or talk to me. I wasn't a loner. I was just worried about improving too fast. So I found a corporate gym, a big glass and metal thing with shiny equipment, and in the pictures everyone is fake smiling. Obviously a place completely devoid of any soul. Perfect. Only thing is that it was a bit too far to walk. I would actually need to take a train. Pushing myself up, to wash away the slight nervous feeling I had. I hated the feeling of getting on the wrong train or something, but with my map guide I was easily able to figure out the right train and get on. It was a peaceful trip, but I remained on guard, making sure to keep a close eye on those around me so no one could steal my ID shard. Lucy might or might not be in the city at the moment, but I wasn't about to risk it. In the end I made it to my destination without issue. A big honking building. Chrome Ring Gym. Huh? I muttered the name as I walked under it. Entering inside I looked around, and just as I hoped there were tons of high-end machines that would increase weight and as such would let me push myself further than just some push-ups would. Inside a receptionist with a fake smile greeted me, and after I ignored most of her sales pitch I paid for a monthly subscription that wasn't overly expensive before getting an access shard and I entered into the gym. Unfortunately before I could take more than 2 steps in I was greeted by a massive guy in a suit. "Weapons must go in the locker," he ordered, pointing towards a set of armored lockers next to him. Oh right, I was packing. I nodded and headed over, placing my Unity and my knife into the locker and taking the shard. With that he stepped aside and I walked in. So many activities. Considering I would have to walk home after I decided to focus on my arms, I really didn't want to have to stumble home with dead legs. With that decision made, I settled in to pump some iron off a machine, and nearly instantly I could see my alerts come flooding in. 100 body XP gained. 100 body XP gained. 100 body XP gained. I smiled even as I grunted, pushing further and further. Sure, my arms felt like noodles and hurt like hell on my way home. But I gained nearly another level in body in that one session. With that initial hurdle out of the way I started exploring a bit more of the city, taking the train out to places that I wanted to see or visit. I may have walked past V's apartment in Mega Building H10 just to see it, although it wasn't actually their apartment yet. Wherever they were, they didn't move into this apartment until after the start of the game. Either way it made me feel like I was actually part of the world and not just hiding away in my apartment. I just wasn't at a point where I felt I could do anything. It's sorta weird that with the gamer system I sort of expect to be able to make changes to the world, even if I know that is still unlikely. There was so much corruption and evil. I would have to see if I could actually cut out even a little of that evil. Mostly scavs. Fuck scavs. Hey. I sighed. Hey Hiromi. I grunted, my arms hurt and I was walking down the street heading home from the train. Hiromi pulled up beside me. On the sidewalk of course, because what does she care about laws, gently driving next to me. "What's got you so down?" she asked, leaning over the handlebars of her bike. I turned to look at her, pouted a bit and flopped my arm at her. "Exercise hurts." I hit body 4. But not without absolutely shredding myself to get there. Now all I wanted to do was go home and sleep. Still doing that exercise thing, huh?" she asked, looking over at me as she gently walked her bike along with me. "Yes. It's important," I informed her, but she just made a noise of fake agreement. "Well anyways, I was just driving by and noticed you. There is a party at the club if you want to come." "Pass. I want to go to sleep, arms hurt." Hee alright. "Hey listen, tomorrow Ichi is hinting we might have another gig." "Whoa, don't give me that look. Way more low-key, okay?" Apparently the boss wants some eyes on somebody, so we will be those eyes. Ichi asked if you could come. Okay. I'll come. What's the pay like? Terrible. Especially split so much, but it will keep us from being bored with more people. So she offered, waving both of her hands, which made me reflexively try to reach out to grab her bike's handlebars, only for my arm to flop around. She didn't have any trouble though before she took control of her bike again. Want to ride home? I sighed. It was only another block. Okay. I grumbled, weakly climbing onto her stupid swoop-backed bike. She cackled and floored it a bit once I was on, making me grab her, only to moan in pain at moving my arms. Bitch. I grunted quietly at the feeling of my burning muscles. Sorry, Chum, she giggled. She didn't sound sorry. She dropped me off at the front of the apartment and was about to head out when she called out. Hey, you should think about getting your hair done. It's getting messy, she said before driving off. Making me blink. I mean, it was getting a little long, but messy? Was my hair messy? I weakly reached up to mess with my bangs. They were a little rough. I hadn't exactly gotten a haircut after spending time in a coma. I guess I would have to check the map again. Icky knows. Another job, another chance to prove he had what it takes. To move out of being just another kid on the street into being someone important. He may lead a small group, but it wasn't like a gang, more like herding cats. Sometimes he would take a job only to have none of the group able, or willing to help. He had learned his lesson with that. If it didn't involve something preem, Malcolm and Omaida would just bail, and Hiromi was only around half the time. He often had to incentivize them to show up, especially if it was a boring job like this one. So he had to stake out a guy. Keep an eye on him for Shobo Summer, so he of course invited his team. Most refused, until he offered to bring some beers from the club and make it a small party. That got the attention of his herd of irritable cats. He sighed even if the pay was gonna be shit, and his portion was mostly already gone thanks to the beers. With his group there would be less risk. No one liked to be staked out after all, and he would have extra eyes to keep an eye out. That had been the plan anyways. Before the old saying of plans never surviving first contact with an enemy. Now he had to deal with a drunk Malcolm. Omaida getting so annoyed with drunk Malcolm, he had to put a stop to 3 fights already. His own horrible boredom sitting here on a stairway watching the front of a bar for a guy who was probably having a good time inside. Hiromi, who hadn't even shown up yet. With the only explanation he had gotten was that she was picking up Motoko. Motoko. That was something he wasn't sure how to feel about. On one hand, in a single moment she had proven herself to be someone reliable. Even if it had screwed up the job. No, the job had already been screwed up. But that definitely ended it. She had saved him. Covered his back in ways that he honestly didn't trust the rest of the crew to do. Even if she kinda scared him. All the street kids joked, or lied about how many gonks they had flatlined, but it was a rare kid to actually have any deaths at their hands, especially ones that were definitely not an accident. His own first kill had been an accident. He had been running from a bad gang fight when some homeless gonk had grabbed him. He had fired without thinking. Pure adrenaline and reaction. But Motoko? That isn't how her first kill went at all. The sound of a Kusanagi's engine caused his head to tilt up as Hiromi's bike finally pulled up onto the sidewalk below them. Motoko behind her. He blinked because that was not a girl out for the town or a wannabe ganger like Hiromi. Motoko? She had come to a casual stakeout gig dressed ready for war. An SMG slung in her arms, a pistol on her belt, and her big-ass knife on her hip. She walked up the steps onto the walkway they were all waiting on with their cooler of beers and gave them all that look that she always had in her eyes, as if she was searching for weakness. Or maybe that was just Ichi's imagination after that night. She nodded to him. We are here. Let the party start, Hiromi cried out, personality so different from her chum. Motoko though wasn't here to party. She refused a beer and simply switched to checking around like she was ready for an ambush. He pointed out the bar to her. The target's car was out front of a bar that they were parked across the street from. I like your hair, Ichi said after a moment, unable to figure out what else to say to her once Motoko settled in. She blinked before giving him a tight smile. Thanks. I based it off someone I really look up to. She answered before turning her face back towards the bar. It was cut, short in the back showing off the very nape of her neck, but longer in the front with long bangs. I still don't know why you went with purple though. There are better colors. Hiromi grumbled beside him, pointing at her own riot of hair color. I don't think neon green works for me, she replied simply, but she smiled at Hiromi. Your loss. Details of the gig? Motoko asked him suddenly. Hiromi was sparse on details. A guy owes the boss some money. He took a loan and is past due on his payment. The boss already had a talk with him, but the worry is that he will try to wrap it instead of getting the money together. So we are watching him. If he starts running, we track him long enough for the boss's men to take care of it. With that, Ichi sent over the image of the guy that the boss had given him along with the picture of his car. Any other exits? What? He asked, looking to the girl. Does the bar have a back door? Yeah. Probably, he said before realizing what she was getting at. Shit, you think he slipped out the back? Probably not. Depends on how scared he is. She asked before shrugging. Did he have any guards? No. He isn't like a Gonzalez. Good. She offered simply before standing back up from where she was resting. I'll go keep an eye on the back of the bar. Call me if anything changes. Yeah. Sounds good. He answered simply because Motoko was already moving. She hadn't asked if that is what she should do. She just did it. He wasn't sure if he appreciated it and wished the rest of the team would be as helpful, or just wanted her to look to him for leading this gig. He sighed. He would just take what he could get. Honestly, he was kinda glad the way too serious girl wasn't standing next to him anymore. She was making him look bad. It was so awkward. Was the SMG too much? It was probably too much. I had done my best to keep my face flat when I walked up to everyone because I was too embarrassed to admit that I brought the SMG mostly for comfort. No one else had any heavy equipment. Stupid Motoko. I had quickly found an easy excuse to run away so I could be alone and not under everyone's eyes. Of course, now I was creeping at the entrance of an alleyway holding some serious firepower, getting stared at by everyone that noticed me. Luckily the alleyway was empty, and so I was able to just hang out inside the alley in the dark and stare at the back door. And right after I got my hair cut too. I was sporting a Motoko Kusanagi haircut. I figured why not? I was already using the name. The Major was a badass cyborg in a cyberpunk world. So I could too. Well, you know. If I could get over how embarrassing it was to bring a fucking machine gun to a stakeout. Ringing. Moshi mosh. Hiromi. What's up? Nothing, just boring up here. The boys are all getting drunk other than Ichi, but he is super mega focused now that you rubbed his face in the fact he wasn't doing a perfect job. I didn't. PFFD, I know I'm teasing. So how is the alley? Dark, smelly. But quiet, I guess? Could be worse. Boring. You should come back up and we can see how drunk we can get Malcolm. We are on a job, Hiromi. We really shouldn't be drinking at all. Plus I need to watch the back door. Ugh, you are so boring. Seriously, you are no fun at all. Way too. Our guy just came out the front door. On my way. I finished the call as I hurried out of the alley, towards the entrance to the bar. I slowed as I came around the corner, seeing the target drunkenly slide into his car. I winced at just how obviously drunk the guy was as he slipped into his car. I didn't even bother hiding myself after that. Just sighing as I crossed the street as the man failed to get his car in gear. The others were already on their bikes, or in his van like Omaeda. Thankfully Malcolm was in the passenger seat. I slipped onto the back of Hiromi's bike without a word as I gave Ichi a nod, which he returned after a stilted moment. Let's go, he said and started off following the drunk driver. I was ready to do something just for that. Drunk driving was really bad. But in the end, the job was easy. We followed him to what Ichi confirmed was the guy's apartment after he nearly crashed into everything on the way there. He crawled out of his badly parked car and went into his apartment complex. Alright, that's the gig, Ichi said then as we all pulled up together on the side of the street. We just needed to make sure he didn't flee town tonight, and considering how drunk he is, I don't think that's happening. I already spoke with the boss and the gig is done. Good job everyone. He says as he passes over. Frankly, pocket change probably wouldn't even cover gas for everyone, but I shrugged. I understood. We were the lowest on the totem pole. Had to work our way up. I was glad that Hiromi was driving me home after because she couldn't see my face. I couldn't help but feel slightly disappointed. There was a part of me that was hoping, wanting To get some more XP tonight. To kill. Dash. The knife thunked into the board with a solid sound and I smiled. I was getting pretty accurate. What are you doing, Emoto? June asked, sticking his head out from the bedroom looking pretty exhausted. Oh. I'm sorry, June. I got this piece of wood and I figured it would be a good target practice with my knife. I wanted to learn how to throw it just in case, and it's actually pretty easy. I didn't realize it was making so much noise. I grimaced. I hadn't meant to wake up June. The piece of plywood I had found on my morning jog had given me the idea and well, it worked. I already gained 2 reflex XP alerts from this. June blinked sleepily before looking over and noticing the combat knife he had got me sticking out of the wood. Just don't hit the walls, he muttered before turning around and slipping back into his bed. Okay. Sleep well, June. I call out softly before turning back to the board. I was so close. I threw it again. It was interesting because ninjutsu had actually given me some knowledge on how to throw it. But it was giving me reflex XP. Not cool. Man, this system was so weird. But it was great, because I only needed a little more. Another thunk as I aimed and tossed the knife spinning and hitting wood. Reflex leveled up. I covered my mouth so I wouldn't shout and cheer, but I did a little dance as I celebrated. Reflex 3. That meant I had so many skills to grind out again. Plus I could feel how different I felt. Reflex, just like body, was making changes. Where body changed, my physical fitness reflex changed so much else. My balance, sense of distance and how deft my hands were. It was awesome. Especially since reflex 3 was the bare minimum in my opinion. I stretched, feeling my body shift. Hitting body 4 had made changes as well. I had actual muscles. I wasn't quite at super athletic level, but going from wheelchair bound to this in such a short time would have been impossible. I brushed my hair back a bit and grinned. It had been a sudden urge to dye it purple, but I think it worked. Now I just needed to update my wardrobe, but I had promised Hiromi I would go with her to buy new clothes, so I was just waiting for her to show up so we could do that. She hadn't responded to my message, but that wasn't anything new. She was quiet for long periods and then would send me 10 texts about how her days had gone. I wasn't going to the gym today since I was hoping to run into Hiromi, so I had instead done some light jogging when I woke up and ran across the board. I was honestly almost tempted to flick the TV on and spend a half hour watching the absolutely zany stuff they broadcast, but it was so full of ads on every show I couldn't do it. Instead, since I had nothing else to do, I decided to go back to something I hadn't touched in a while. Netrunning. I had breach protocol unlocked, but hadn't done any further testing on it once I learned I could exercise my way out of the wheelchair. But it was quiet right now. So I went into my room and pulled out the box. The teaching shard was slotted and I pulled out the cyberdeck to start messing with, following the instructions that my mother gave me. A few hours of work and I had something to show for myself. 100 breach protocol XP gained. 100 intelligence XP gained. I nodded. I guess I was getting somewhere. Dash. I was eating a stick of mystery meat as I walked around the block when I finally got a call back from Hiromi. Yes. Let's finally get you some preem threads. I know a place that has. I already know the shop I want to go to. Sorry. Uck. You aren't going to let me put any tiger claw stuff on you, are you? You aren't like, trying to get out of the gang entirely, are you? I still love my brother and support him, but I don't really like gangs, Hiromi. PFFT. Well, welcome to the club. No one does, but I like the gangs that will kill me a lot less than the one that will accept me. She tells me bluntly. But whatever, fine. I'll come pick you up. Cool. Thanks, Hiromi, I really appreciate it. I've been kinda waffling on buying anything new. Good. I have to be there to okay your stuff, otherwise you will pick something wrong. Thanks, I said dryly, rolling my eyes a bit. But well, it's fine. She was trying to help. We ended up driving up the road a ways into the shopping district of Japantown. To start, but it was a bust. There wasn't anything I ended up liking. At least nothing that I wanted for what I was really shopping for. A job outfit. I already had plenty of casual clothes, even if not everything fit me, but I would still need something on the job. The outfit I had worn on our first job was basically rags at this point. The blood had stained it. And well, if I was going to be a merc, I wanted to look professional. I wasn't exactly a fan of street kid flair. What did they call it? Neo-militarism? Yeah, I kinda liked that. Anyway, we drove around. I did relent and allow Hiromi to go to her clothing store, which was a hidden little tiger claw place that sold their paraphernalia. I didn't end up buying anything that Hiromi recommended, but to my pleasure there was a nice pair of fingerless gloves without any tiger claw stuff on them that I ended up picking up, much to Hiromi's annoyance. After that we drove around the city, stopping in city center at a nice store. I found the perfect jacket. It was a tough material, probably some form of synth leather. But it was a half jacket, stopping just below my chest. But it had long sleeves and a nice collar, which meant it would be perfect for keeping me warm, but not get in the way of my gun. I bought a dark-colored jacket, and found to my pleasure that the sleeves even rolled up and could be strapped down, meaning if I was too hot, I didn't have to swelter. I did so immediately, sort of glad I wouldn't have to wear the jacket covered in tiger claw symbols anymore. Although I could tell, considering how it was designed, it was probably expected to put some symbol on the back of it. I just had no intention to do that. It was a cute jacket already. I didn't need anything to make it look better. Unfortunately, that was a big chunk of money. Even with Gonzalez's stupid chromed out piece of crap, it was still just a revolver in Night City. And I was trying not to spend too much of the $5,000 that Hiromi's mother had forced on me. Anyway, grumbling Hiromi drove us back to our part of the city, complaining that I only bought 2 things and neither of them were actual clothing. I just shrugged, happy with my cute jacket. Things slowed down for a bit. I spent a week mostly doing my own thing. Grinding body in the gym lets me hit body 5. And I was definitely starting to notice some real changes. 6-pack, here I come. Almost. They were getting close though. And athletics had hit 4, as I was doing a ton of running back and forth from the gym and just in general. I couldn't have Hiromi always driving me around. I was doing a light jog in the gym, finishing up my workout, when I heard a noise that drew me away. I paused the machine, stepped off, wiped my face down with the towels the gym offered, and walked out of the main exercise room where I had spent basically all my time into one of the side rooms. Rooms that I hadn't bothered to look into since everything I wanted was in the main room. The side room, to my surprise, had, well, I wouldn't call them sandbags, they were more tech than that, but it was the same thing. The noise I had heard was a man with gorilla arms slamming his fists into the machine. As I watched, I couldn't help but think it was pretty cool. It was basically a stationary block with 4 limbs reaching out of it, with round pads on the end of each limb. I watched the machine as it kept altering the pads, shifting where they were as the man continued to pummel them down. A rapid staccato as the machine constantly adjusts for the hits. I was the dumbest. I hadn't even thought about hand-to-hand. I didn't really do the boxing ring missions in the game. I just skipped those missions because I thought they were a little silly. But this was the real world. Knowing how to throw a punch, or better yet, block one? My arms were still good. Today I had mostly been doing aerobic exercise, so I found an open machine. After a few minutes of fiddling with the machine, I found its settings and started it on the lightest setting. The 4 limbs moved around a bit before I noticed that they actually had little lights. Oh, I get it. I was supposed to hit the green pads, and not the red ones that were blocking my fists. Interesting. How cute. And kinda fun. I threw a few weak punches, getting a feel for it. At this setting it wasn't hard. On the 5th hit, I got an alert. Street brawling experience gained. Skill not unlocked, no XP gained. Street brawling unlocked. Another body skill? Yes please. I tucked in. Didn't matter if I was already near the end of my exercise regiment. I was gonna spend a few hours hitting this machine until it gave me my levels. The snapping pop of my fist hitting the pad over and over, joining the much louder, harder and faster hits with the man. But I didn't care about that. I was enjoying myself. Sweating and learning, and as the alerts came in, I felt that need rising up. Come to mama. Give me that sweet level up. Finally, after who knows how long I had been punching the stupid machine, I got the last alert I needed. Street brawler skill level up. Level 1. And boy was that a lot of info. I might already be exhausted, but it wasn't that bad. I had been pushing my body pretty hard for weeks. I had already hit level 5 body. A half hour of punching a bag definitely had worn me out, but I was still there. And now? Now I knew how to really throw a punch. Or at least I was certainly a lot better. I adjusted the machine for the first time, increasing the difficulty. Now it would actually try to block me. I threw myself into it for a few minutes, just getting a feel for my new knowledge. The higher skill ceiling of the machine meant I even got an alert. 100 Street Brawler XP gained. Before I gave it up, sweating like crazy, I wiped my head down and went to hit the shower. The Gorilla Arms guy was still going though. What crazy stamina.